Let's take a look at talent management software. Employers use talent management software to coordinate talent management activities. For example, Oracle says its talent management suite helps the manager to hire the best talent, provide real-time evaluations of workforce performance, and align and develop a workforce with talent management goals. Skillroad's technology talent management solution includes applicant tracking, onboarding, performance management, and compensation support. It helps the manager to recruit, manage, and retain your best employee. Organizations consist of positions that have to be staffed. Job analysis is the procedure through which you determine duties of a company's position. Job analysis produces information for writing job descriptions, a list of what the job entails, and job specifications, what kind of people to hire for the job. Virtually every personnel-related action, like interviewing applicants and training and appraising employees, for instance, requires knowing what the job entails and what human traits one needs to do the job well. The supervisor or human resource specialist normally collects one or more of the following types of information via job analysis. Information about the job's actual work activities, such as cleaning, selling, teaching, or painting. This list may also include how, why, and when the worker performs each activity. Information about human behaviors the job requires, like sensing, communicating, lifting, or walking long distances. Information regarding tools used, materials processed, knowledge dealt with and applied, such as finance or law, and services rendered, such as counseling or repairing. Information about the job's performance standards in terms of quantity or quality levels for each job duty, as an example. Information about such matters as physical working conditions, work schedules, incentives, and, for instance, the number of people with whom the employee would normally interact. Information such as knowledge and skills and required personnel attributes are always included. Job analysis is important because it supports just about all of human resource management activities. Information about what duties the job entails and what human characteristics are required to perform those duties helps managers decide what sort of people to recruit and to hire. Knowing a job's duties is necessary for determining, for example, whether a selection test is a valid predictor of the success on the job. To comply with ADA, employers should know each job's essential job functions. A performance appraisal compares an employee's actual performance to his or her duties with the job performance standards. Managers use job analysis to learn what these duties and standards are. Compensation, such as salary and bonus, usually depend on the job's required skill and education level, safety hazards, degree of responsibility, and so on, all the factors you assess through job analysis. The job description lists the job's specific duties and requisite skills. There are 6 steps in doing a job analysis of a job as follows. First, we identify the use of the information because this will determine how you collect it. Some data collection techniques, like interviewing the employee, are good for writing job descriptions. Other techniques, like the position analysis questionnaire that we'll describe later, provide numerical ratings for the job. These can be used to compare jobs for compensation. Review relevant background information about the job, such as organizational charts and process charts. It's important to understand the job context. A process chart provides a detailed picture of a workflow. Finally, an existing job description may provide a starting point for revising it. Reviewing the organizational chart, process chart, and job description helps the manager identify what job duties and demands are now. Workflow analysis is a detailed study of the flow of work from job to job in one identifiable work process, such as processing a mortgage application. In turn, this analysis may lead to changing or re-engineering the job. Job analysis interviews range from unstructured to highly structured. Managers may conduct individual interviews with each employee, group interviews with groups of employees that have the same job, or supervisor interviews with one or more knowledgeable supervisors. Group interviews work when a large number of employees are performing similar or identical work, since this can be quick and inexpensive in terms of gathering information. The interviewee should understand the reason for the interview. There's a tendency for workers to view such interviews, rightly or wrongly, as effectively evaluations. If so, interviews may hesitate to describe their jobs accurately. Many managers use questionnaires to guide the interview. It includes questions regarding matters like the general purpose of the job, supervisory responsibilities, job duties, and skills required. The interview is a simple and quick way to collect information. Skilled interviewers can also unearth important activities that occur occasionally, and employees might vent frustrations that might otherwise go unnoted. Distortion of information is the main problem here. Job analysis often precedes changing a job's pay rate. Employees often exaggerate some responsibilities while minimizing others. Having employees fill out questionnaires is another popular job analysis approach. Some questionnaires are structured checklists. Here, each employee gets an inventory of perhaps hundreds of specific duties or tasks. At the other extreme, the questionnaire may simply ask, describe the major duties of your job. In practice, the questionnaire often falls between these two extremes. A typical job analysis questionnaire might include several open-ended questions as well as structured questions. Questionnaires are a quick and efficient way to obtain information from a large number of employees. However, developing and testing it can be time-consuming. And as with interviews, employees may distort their answers. Direct observations is especially useful when jobs consist of observable physical activity. However, it's usually not appropriate when the job entails a lot of mental activity, like lawyers or design engineers, nor is it useful if the employee only occasionally engages in important activities, such as a nurse who handles emergencies. Reactively, the worker's changing to what he or she normally does because you're watching is another problem. Managers often use direct observation and interviewing together. One approach is to observe the worker on the job during a complete work cycle. Here, you take notes of all the job activities. Then, ask the person to clarify open points and explain what other activities they perform. Another method is to ask workers to keep a diary or log. Here, for every activity engaged in, the employee records the activity along with the time in a log. Some firms give employees pocket dictating machines and pagers. Then, during the day, they page the workers who dictate what they're doing at that time. Qualitative methods like interviews and questionnaires are not always suitable. For example, if your aim is to compare jobs for pay purposes, a mere listing of duties may not suffice. You may need to say that, in effect, job A is twice as challenging as job B, and so it's worth twice the pay. To do this, it helps to have quantitative ratings for each job. There are several quantitative methods for doing this. The Position Analysis Questionnaire, known as PAQ, is a very popular quantitative job analysis tool, consisting of a questionnaire containing 194 items, which each represent a basic element that may play a role in the job. There are certain activities, like having a decision-making responsibility, performing skilled activities, being physically active, operating vehicles or equipment, or processing information. The final PAQ score reflects the job's rating on each of these 5 activities. To get those scores, the job analyst decides if each of the 194 items applies to the job, and if so, to what extent. With ratings for each job's decision-making, skilled activity, physical activity, and information processing characteristics, you can quantitatively compare jobs relative to one another and then classify them for pay purposes. Experts at the U.S. Department of Labor did much of their early work developing job analysis. They used their results to compile what was for many years the Bible of job descriptions known as the Dictionary of Occupational Titles. This book contained detailed information on virtually every job in America. Internet-based tools have largely replaced it. However, their job analysis procedure remains a good example of how to quantitatively rate, classify, and compare jobs. The DOL method uses a set of standard activities called worker functions to describe what a worker must do with respect to data, people, and things. With respect to data, for instance, the functions include synthesizing and copying. For things, basic functions include manipulating and handling. Employers also use online job analysis tools. Here, the Human Resource Department generally distributes standardized job analysis questionnaires to geographically dispersed employees online, with instructions to complete the forms and return them by a particular date. The job analyst may then convene online job experts to discuss and finalize the knowledge, skills, and abilities, as well as other characteristics of doing the job. Without a job analyst actually sitting there with the employee or the supervisor, there's a chance they won't cover important points and misunderstandings might arise. Therefore, all instructions should be clear and we must test the process first. The most important product of job analysis is the job description. A job description is a written statement of what the worker actually does, how they do it, and what the job's working conditions are. You use this information to write a job specification, which lists the knowledge, abilities, and skills required to perform the job satisfactorily. You might assume that job descriptions are only of use in business settings, but that's certainly not the case. A well thought out job description will benefit everyone involved. The job identification section contains several types of information. The job title specifies the name of the job. The Fair Labor Standards Act, FLSA, status section identifies the job as exempt or non-exempt. Under FLSA, certain positions, primarily administrative and professional, are exempt from overtime and minimum wage provisions. Date is the date the job description was approved. This section might also include the supervisor's title and information regarding salary or pay scale. There might also be space for the pay grade or level of the job if there is one. The job summary should summarize the essence of the job. Some experts don't recommend including a clause that states other duties is assigned since this leaves open the nature of the job. The summary should also state that the employee is expected to carry out their duties efficiently and effectively. Some job descriptions include a relationship statement. This statement shows the job holder's relationships with others inside and outside the organization. Responsibility statements list each of the job's major duties separately. This section may also define the job holder's authority limits. For example, the job holder might have authority to approve purchase requests up to $5,000 or interview and hire new employees. Usually, the manager's basic question here is, how do I determine what the job's duties are and should be? The answer first is, from the job analysis. This should review what the employees in each job are doing now. Second, you can review various sources of standardized job description information. The U.S. government's standard occupational classification classifies all workers into one of 23 major groups of jobs, such as management occupations and healthcare occupations. The employer can use standardized descriptions like these to identify a job duty and responsibility, such as determine the demand for products. Another simple solution is to just Google the job description you want by seeing what others are doing online. Line managers today can do things for which they formerly required HR managers' assistance. A standards of performance section of a job description lists what the employee should achieve. One way to set standards is to finish the statement, "I will be completely satisfied with your work when." This sentence, completed for each duty, should produce a usable set of performance standards. The job description may list the job's working conditions, such as noise level or hazards as well. Writing job specifications for experienced employees is relatively straightforward. Here, job specifications tend to focus on factors such as length of previous service, quality of relevant training, and previous job performance. The problems are more complex when you're filling jobs with untrained people, with the intention of training them on the job. Here, you must specify quantities and qualities such as physical traits, personalities, interests, sensory skills that imply some potential for performing the job or for trainability. Employers identify the job's human requirements. Most job specifications simply reflect educated guesses. The basic procedure here is to ask, what does it take in terms of education, intelligence, training, and the like to do this job well? How does one make such educated guesses? You could simply review the job's duties and deduce from those what human traits and skills the job might require. You can also choose human traits and skills from those listed in web-based job descriptions. ONET Online is another option. Job listings there include lists of required education, experience, and skills. Don't ignore behaviors that may apply to almost any job. Basing job specifications on statistical analysis is more defensible, but it's also more difficult. The aim is to determine the statistical relationship between some predictor, such as intelligence, and some indicator of job effectiveness, such as performance is rated by the supervisor. The basic procedure is predictive validation. There are 5 steps. Analyze the job and measure performance, select personal traits that predict performance, test candidates for these traits, measure candidates' subsequent performance, and statistically analyze the relationship. Your aim is to determine whether the trait predicts performance. Why is this more defensible than a judgmental approach? First, if the trait doesn't predict performance, why use it? Second, equal rights laws prohibit using traits that you can't prove distinguish between high and low job performance. But in practice, most employers rely on these judgmental approaches. The job requirements matrix is popular. A typical matrix lists the following information in 5 columns. Column 1 includes each of the job's 4 or 5 main job duties, such as post accounts payable. The task statements for the main tasks associated with each job duty are also listed. Then in column 3, the relative importance of the job duty is specified. Column 4 includes the time spent on each main job duty. And column 5 is the knowledge, skills, and abilities and other human characteristics known as KSAOs related to each main job duty. The main step in creating a job requirements matrix involves writing the task statements. Each task statement describes a main job duty's separate job tasks. A manager should not ignore desirable on-the-job behaviors through a job analysis. The human resource consulting company Development Dimensions International conducted a study of 3,800 employees and identified several personal characteristics that seemed to predict the likelihood someone would be engaged on the job. These traits included adaptability, passion for work, emotional maturity, positive disposition, self-advocacy, and achievement orientation. A sensible suggestion is to seek out people who already have records of being engaged employees. Because past behavior is often the best predictor of future behavior, there's one helpful suggestion if you want to hire people who are more likely to become engaged employees. Look for examples of engagement in their other areas of life. Identifying a job's required competencies is similar to a traditional job analysis. Thus, you might interview job incumbents and ask them about job responsibilities and activities and required skills and knowledge. But instead of compiling lists of job duties, your aim is to finish the statement. In order to perform this job competently, the employee should be able to use your knowledge of the job to answer this, or the worker or supervisor's insights, or use information from an online source. Then, for each competency, write a competency statement. A good competency statement includes 3 elements. One is the name and a brief description of the competency, such as project management, creating accurate and effective project schedules. The second is a description of the observable behaviors that represent proficiency in the competency, such as continuously managing project risks and dependencies by making timely decisions. Third are proficiency levels. The following are some examples of proficiency levels for project management from high to low. Proficiency level 1, identify project risks and dependencies and communicate routinely to stakeholders. Level 2, develop systems to monitor risks and dependencies and report changes. Anticipate changing conditions to risks and dependencies and take preventative action.